Okay, welcome everybody to the 5:55 p.m. Board of Canvassers meeting of November 19th, 2019. Let the roll call reflect that all board members are present. First item on our agenda this evening is Pledge of Allegiance. I've asked Vice Chair Chaburka to lead us through that.
Yes. Excuse me. Yes, we've actually, Kaden is in the audience and is willing to come up and lead the pledge for us. Come on up.
Will you please rise? Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, Kaden?
I don't think so.
Do you want to tell? Thank you so much.
It's okay. It's okay, Caden. We just covered this in our last meeting. We have a rule. It's like you try and hurry to get off the mic. So you're doing a good job. Okay, please consider joining us in a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, for the primary and only item on the agenda for this Board of Canvassers meeting, the 2019 Municipal General Election, we're joined by our Ogden City Recorder, Tracy Hansen. So you're going to present as recorder while the recorder records the recorder? Okay.
It's like that.
Good luck putting that in the minutes.
I'm a tailgate. I had to do a tailgate while tailgating.
Like it though.
Good evening. Before you tonight are the results for the general election for Ogden City. Part of the responsibility for the Board of Canvass is that the recorder is to prepare a report that includes the total number of votes, the name of each candidate who appeared on the ballot, the office that appeared on the ballot, number of votes for each candidate from each precinct, total number of votes given to each candidate, number of ballots that were rejected, and a statement certifying that the information is accurate. So that's what I'm here to provide to you tonight, and request that you certify the results.
Thank you. That was easy. Any questions for Tracy?
Sorry, I got a couple slides to show. So these are the results for the election. Of course, the 3 council member seats were unopposed. Mike Caldwell received 57% of the vote and is duly elected as mayor. Luis Lopez from at-large seat C, Municipal District 2, Richard Heyer, Municipal District 4, Ben Nadolski. Sorry, one more. I can't do it.
Oh, no, wait. I'm too far.
There you go. Oh. So there were 33 provisional ballots in Ogden. All were counted. We had an overall voter percentage of 37%, which is one of Ogden's highest. There were 156 ballots that were not counted. And you can see the reasons there were they were returned after the deadline, so postmarked after the date of the election. They were not signed, or there was no signature. There were several ballots that weren't in their envelopes. So there's no way that the county can get a hold of anyone to tell them their ballot won't be counted, or there was no identification, so they hadn't provided identification, or their signature did not match the voter record. They are all given opportunity. They were contacted by phone, email, and then letter, and given time to remedy the situation so that those 156 were not counted. On election evening, there was, I believe, 253 voters that actually went to the polls, but everything else was by mail. there's any questions. If not, I would request that you certify the results. And then I would need, if they are certified, I would need each council member's signature on the document certifying the results. So.
Gotcha. Any questions for Tracy?
I have one. When and how do we get the individual precinct results?
They're in your report. They're in your packet.
Okay.
They're just so long, I didn't want to put each one
Okay.
up. But they are available. They're available in the recorder's office, and they'll be posted online as
All right,
well.
thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Tracy? If no questions, I'll entertain a motion on the item.
Chair, I would make a motion then that we certify the results of the November 5th primary election.
I second it.
We have a motion by Board Member Heyer, seconded by Board Member Stevens to certify the results of the November 5th municipal general election. This is a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That passes. The election results are certified. Tracy, thanks for all the work that you do, as well as the work of countless others at the county and elsewhere. But you're always nothing but a professional, and requires a lot of organization. So we're lucky to have you doing that. Thank you. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn from the Board of Canvassers.
So
meeting.
moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Board Member Heyer, second by Board Member White to adjourn the Board of Canvassers meeting. This is a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. And while Tracy is getting set up, I will pass around the certification of canvas for our signature. Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the 6 p.m. City Council meeting of November 19th, 2019. Thank you. Let the roll call reflect that all council members are present. First item on our agenda is an honorary recognition for honorary mayor of Christmas Village. This recognition will be read by Councilmember Blair.
Yes, thank you, Chair Nadolski. This proclamation is declaring November 23rd, 2019 as Ernie Terraza Day in Ogden City. And it reads, whereas, living in Ogden for the past 50 years, Ernie Terraza epitomizes the Ogden spirit. Ernie was born in Syracuse, Kansas, and lived in Colorado until the age of 7 when he moved to Ogden. He has one son, Ernest, twin daughters, Erica and Kimberly, and 3 grandchildren. And whereas, Ernie is extensively involved with service in the community. He has coached junior jazz, boys and girls basketball, boys baseball for Ogden City Recreation for 8 years, was an assistant basketball coach at Mound Fort Junior High, and was the assistant baseball coach at Ben Lomond High School. And whereas Ernie started his career in Ogden City in 1980, his duties focus on improving the city and serving members of the community. He finished his career with Ogden City as the structural maintenance supervisor for the Parks Department. After 38 years of working for the city, Ernie retired on August 1st, 2018. And whereas, for 38 years, Ernie has been involved both professionally and personally in Ogden City's Christmas Village. He enjoys watching kids' faces light up at the Christmas Village lighting ceremony and watching the magic of the village make so many people happy. Some of his favorite Christmas Village memories were the small mishaps and technical difficulties that he and his fellow employees experienced during the opening ceremonies, and hopefully we'll hear maybe a couple of those later. And whereas we are grateful for the opportunity to highlight Ernie's legacy in the Ogden community, his service and contributions have left a lasting impact on Ogden City. Now therefore, Mayor Michael P. Caldwell and the Ogden City Council do hereby proclaim November 30th, 2019 Which one is it? November 30th? It's the 30th. Okay. November 30th. Let's go with November 30th. do hereby proclaim November 30th, 2019 as Ernie Terraza Day in Ogden City and declare him the honorary mayor of Christmas Village for 2019. We express our sincere gratitude for his contributions to our community and encourage everyone to follow his example and join us in honoring Ernie by visiting and enjoying Ogden's Christmas Village. And with that, I would go ahead and make a motion that we adopt this joint proclamation.
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Blair. We have a motion by Councilmember Blair to adopt the joint proclamation, seconded by Councilmember Chaburka. This is a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
We'd ask Ernie to come forward. I'm going to leave that in. No, you can. We'll take a picture of that. Thank you so much.
Ernie, you're a great man.
Do you have a red suit, Ernie? Just a second.
Ernie, do you have any family you want to come up and have a picture taken of the committee with you? Yeah.
Yeah, they should come up.
Yeah, get them, bring them all.
Okay, how about the purple shirts?
Yeah.
Purple shirts, come on.
Yeah, have everybody come up. He doesn't want to get any attention.
have a sweatshirt. Come on, Miss Joe. All right, I got one at least.
Oh, sorry.
I feel like this picture should be outside under the lights.
Staying a little longer.
Oh, no,
As long as they stay short, we're good.
Some of you got to come over here.
It's getting a little lopsided. It'll fall over.
Get together too. If you can angle in and kind of really get close to each other.
So tall.
Everybody looking here. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. And just one more. Okay, thank you so much.
Oh.
Thank you.
Ernie, we'd love to hear from you if you have something. Especially
I'll follow your rule, just keep it
I was
short
gonna say, man.
and be out of here.
Come on up.
But thank you. A lot of years here working, doing Christmas Village. It was a lot of fun. And probably a pain to a lot of people back here on the committee and stuff, but it was an honor. It was a good career, and I appreciate this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chair, I asked Ernie if he had a red suit, and he says he's going to get one. So I like the purple shirts. It's very appropriate for this area. But Christmas Village provides a special spirit for our community and adds a lot of the Christmas spirit that comes into this season. And I know Ernie will add to that. I thank him for his service and for his willingness to help us here in the Ogden City.
Thank you. Okay, next item on our agenda, approval of minutes for the joint work session of June 11th, 2019. Councilmember Stevens.
Yes, Chair, they're correct. And I make a motion that we adopt the minutes that have been presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Stevens, second by Councilmember Heyer to approve the minutes as presented. This is a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Thanks for your extra reading, Doug.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is common consent. We have two items. One is for the consideration of appointments of Johnny Taylor and Alex Gilchrist to the Ogden Trails Network Committee. as well as annual action plan amendment, which would set a public hearing for December 17th, 2019.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we approve the common consent agenda as it's been presented.
Second. Sorry.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Councilmember White to adopt the items of common consent. This also is a voice vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Those items pass. Before we move on, are Johnny and or Alex here tonight? Okay, just checking. And okay, reports from the Planning Commission. Item number 5, general plan amendments, presented by our very own Greg Montgomery.
Thank you, Chair and members of the council. So before you tonight is an action the Planning Commission has taken on, really it's a two-part. One is a general plan amendment, and then, of course, after this you'll be considering a master plan development for the transportation. The general plan is a document that gives direction for the future of the community and kind of directs the growth and the way the city should be moving forward in the future. In our general plan, we have elements that identify our community facilities, our identity, our open space, environment, housing, land use. Tonight, we're looking at amendments to two areas. One is in housing and one is in transportation. And you might ask, well, okay, if we're looking at a transportation master plan, why are we also looking at amendments to housing? With recent legislation, one of the important parts of the bill is tying housing and transportation together. And as we talk about the need for amendments to the general plan, to make clear that as we look at transportation, we're also looking at housing. The two do go together. And we want to make that clear as we look at amendments to the plan. Generally, the general plan is the base of all we do in the community. It sets and establishes the foundation principles. As we move forward, as outlined here in the red, you see the housing and the transportation. That's two of those base items. And later on, we're going to be looking at then the master plan, which is an element that's more refined and get into more specific details. So you see that upper red area, that's another pillar added to getting from the theory to the implementation. And that's what takes place in these processes, is to create the ability to actually implement things for the betterment of the community. In addition to the transportation master plan, which you'll hear about in a moment, we've also had other documents going on dealing with transportation. Ogden On Board, which was a cooperation with UTA regarding the bus rapid transit, or BRT for short. And so in the amendments to the general plan, we'll have language that also deals with the BRT and the Ogden On Board study, as well as the transportation master plan. And again, as I mentioned, the state law trying to tie the two together about housing and transportation. The transportation plan presently, or element in the plan, has a goal. This is the present goal. It's proposed to be changed to a new language that we're really looking to move forward to looking at transportation choices that promote safety and livability for the community. And that takes place of lots of different ways to have that happen. Back in 2002, when the plan was adopted, we didn't have all the things we have now. There were not scooters, there were not front runners, there were not a lot of different things. And now, as we have those as part of our life, being able to realize the need for mobility in all different aspects to get around the community is important. So that's why the overall goal has changed to this language. There are revisions to the plan dealing with transit first and the last mile, making those connections, pedestrian connections, mobility for all the users, safety in the system. And each objective that is identified as revisions into the general plan also have strategies of how that takes place. We also refine the language in the plan. So as you look at tonight's consideration, we're looking at updating not only the policies and the strategies, but we're also looking at the general text. No longer is Greyhound an important means to get around in the community, but we're looking at the other systems that exist. And updating that language is just as important as the policy, so we have an up-to-date general plan. So in the plan, we talk about TOD development, to again look at the front runner and also the BRT, identifying potential TOD development sites. Those are outlined in the map here, which is the BRT route, and the key stations in that yellow area where we see potential for development happening. There'll be transit-oriented development, and also those smaller areas of stations where that can still have some minor developments taking place with the transit-oriented development. We also look at then making amendments to the general plan. As I put in these slides here, we're looking at changing some of the strategies. Some are amendments, some are new. In each of these sections, Objective 10, 6 are amendments, 5 are new. In Objective 11, we have 7 amendments and 2 are new. So this kind of gives you an idea of those changes that are being proposed to take place. One of the things, and Councilman Stevens, this is what you brought up in the work session, is that in Strategy 12E, the Planning Commission added to look at the charging stations and creating that as a provision to adopt into our ordinances, that as we have larger developments take place, those charging stations become a requirement. So that's one of the amendments in the plan, and is found in 12E in the general plan. Other amendments to the general plan are the maps, as the circulation system is better defined now by the master plan. Amending the map is important to outline not only the corridors, but also plans for improvements to intersections and other areas where new roads may be needed. Those are outlined in this plan so that our general plan and our transportation master plan will be in sync. So amending these maps are also important. Also making amendments to look at other means of transportation, the bus rapid transit route, but also improvements we see in the future that may happen along Washington Boulevard. There's discussion with UTA and in the Wasatch 2050 of amendments that need to be made. We're looking to also make those amendments to make sure that we have in our plan a stated objective of what we're trying to accomplish. And both the general plan and the transportation master plan are in sync on those items also. And then, as I mentioned, in addition to the transportation plan, and this goes together, is amendments to the housing plan. And that is so we link the items of which the legislative bill is looking at to make sure it's clear that we are complying with SB 34, the Senate bill, and that we have identified how we are trying to meet that in our housing element also. And so we will look at, and we take from our existing plan, this future land use map as we have identified back in 2002, centers. Some of those centers really correlate with the BRT maps. So again, it's re-emphasizing that and adding language of transit-oriented development of that also being, which we didn't have back in 2002. We just had neighborhood centers or community centers. Transit-oriented development is now added to that list. We also list specifically the items required in SB 34 and how we are required to have at least 4 and that we are meeting 8 of those. The Planning Commission, as they reviewed this, are recommending approval of these amendments to the general plan, and that was a unanimous vote from them.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Any questions for Greg? Wow. Greg likes those.
He does a good job.
Yeah, he likes those. Okay, if there's no questions for Greg, I'll entertain, we'll entertain some public input. Does the public have input on this item specifically? If you care to address the council on general plan amendments, now is your time.
Did they do the transportation?
Okay. Seeing no movement, this is not a public hearing, so we don't need a motion. We can entertain action on this item.
Chair, I'd make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2019-50.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Councilmember Blair to adopt proposed ordinance 2019-50. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Vice Chair Traburka?
Aye.
Chair Nadolski?
Aye, that passes. Thank you, Greg. Next item on our agenda is the Transportation Master Plan. Welcome back our very own Justin Anderson, our Ogden City engineer, and Maria Valles from our consulting firm who's helped develop our master plan. Welcome back.
Thank you, Chair Nadolski and members of the council. We are excited to get in front of you tonight to give you a brief overview of the Transportation Master Plan, which we've been working on for many years. And so Maria Valles is with us from Fair and Pierce, who has done a heavy lift in preparing this. And so I just want to thank her for all of her time and effort that she's put. And I'm going to turn the time over to Maria.
Okay, thanks, Justin. Maria, before we get started, I apologize if I mispronounced your name.
It's fine.
My last name is Nadolski, and it happens often as well.
We adapt, right?
You're right.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Justin. It's my pleasure to be here and give you a very brief overview of the master plan. So quick overview of the process that we went through. This has been going on for about 2.5 years. We had a stakeholder group that we worked with, met with a couple times during the process to talk about needs, goals, opportunities, and then another point in time to review the draft projects. We had a public open house in August of 2017 to gather ideas on needs, opportunities, goals. We went to the Ogden Hispanic Festival in the fall of 2017 to gather feedback on needs, opportunities, and goals. We rolled out the projects to the community at large about a year ago, November of 2018, via an online open house for about a month. Got a bunch of comments that way. We had a project website that was going on the whole time. So we've been engaging in conversation with the public for a little while on this plan and what it entails. So overview of what we analyzed, things that went into developing the plan. We looked at current and future travel demand based on models developed by Wasatch Front Regional Council, which looks at future population and employment projections and where people are going to travel and how. We looked at safety data to figure out where your collision hotspots, where places where we need to address issues. We looked at data regarding where people are starting their trips, origins and destinations of trips. We looked at pedestrian needs, where is it difficult for people to walk around, where they're missing pieces of sidewalk infrastructure. Looked at transit ridership patterns. We looked at places where there are land use redevelopment projects happening and what kind of transportation investments might need to be made there. And we looked at your functional classifications, which Greg referred to, and the street cross sections for your roadways. In terms of kind of really big scale projects, so Greg is actually, thank you, Greg, for talking through a lot of the content that was in the plan already. It's just some really big projects that were in each of the phases. So this has a 3-phase plan. First phase is 2019 to 2030. Phase 2 is 2031 to 2040. Phase 3 is 2041 to 2050. A couple of selections of projects. One that was in phase 1 that we heard from the public and our stakeholders, and actually we heard about it going all the way back to the bicycle master plan from 2016, was grade separation of the railroads crossing on 12th Street. So if you can't get through because there's a railroad there, you building a bridge so that people can get over the rail yards without having to be delayed, whether you're walking or biking or driving. Wayfinding implementation was part of phase 1 as well, which actually is already underway and actually implemented. So that's great to see. 24th Street improvements in phase 2. So connecting the new proposed interchange to downtown Ogden City and actually shortening the ramp so they touch down at Wall rather than at Lincoln, so that the ramps don't bypass downtown Ogden and create a better connection for people coming into the city. 4th North extension in phase 3, actually extending that through BDO across the railroad and connecting with North Street to go to Washington Boulevard and creating a better north-south connection there. That's just a handful of the projects. I've been through them with you guys in the past a couple of times, so this is just a refresher. In terms of programs and policies that are intended to help Ogden overall, so there are a number of projects that are included in the plan that promote citywide walkability, focusing on creating new sidewalk connections where there are gaps in the network, especially around neighborhood centers and schools. Continue implementing the bicycle master plan. That's already been something that you guys have been working on doing, so continuing the progress there. Greg referred to some of the transit projects that are really important for Ogden. Several of the programs and policies in the plan include creating better connections to those and creating more transit choices for people that are reliant on the transit network, working to calm traffic in some of the residential areas, particularly east of Harrison, and then looking at the role that disruptive technologies, whether those are connected autonomous vehicles or what we call TNCs, transportation networking companies like Uber and Lyft, how do we take advantage of those and help those create choices for people that live and work in Ogden? And that's all I've got. So, any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Vyas?
Sure, I have a question. Maybe not for Maria, but for Justin. You know, when we do things like this, when we list projects that people are it kind of perks their, their interest, like railroad crossing on 12, the viaduct, the North Street. What is a realistic time frame that a citizen might look at that? Might not be disappointed if we don't. I mean, sometimes when we say these things, they're thinking, oh yeah, in a year or two we're going to have all that done, and it's not likely.
Yeah, in fact, Maria talked about some of the phasing, and so each phase was about a 10-year time increment out. And so one of the things we're trying to tackle in the first 10 years is the railroad crossing. But you looked, if you noticed, on like 400 North extending all the way to I-15 and connecting to Washington Boulevard, that's more like a 30-year outlook. And so
my grandkids are going to enjoy that one.
Yes, and so that's what we've tried to do is have kind of a vision for kind of the short term and then also a long term. Now, could that change in 30 years? Absolutely, but this is a vision that we are looking to work towards. And as we come back and probably in about 10 years or so, and again, look at the master plan and see if the things that we saw today are coming to fruition, if we need to readjust, all these things will be relooked at that time as well.
Thank you.
But yeah, it's not a short.
I just wanted to make sure that we had a realistic expectation for citizens to look at that stuff. So thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
I think in terms of expectations, it's important, but also it's important that we put this into place, that we have these plans in place. And I just want to commend you and your division and your department. You guys have you've done a really good job, and this administration has done a good job of putting master plans together. And that makes policy decisions and budget decisions a lot easier. We still have hard choices to make in the future because there's not enough money to go around, but it's really helpful to have master plans in place to know what the needs are, what the priorities are, how they need to take place and be phased. What's first and what's last is really important. So I commend you for doing that.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Vyas or Mr. Anderson?
I have a couple, Chair. I'd like to go to well, first of all, I'm in favor of a transportation master plan. It gives us a focus of where we need to go and how much it's going to cost us down the road, and so we can appropriate the funds to go ahead and do that. But I'd like to go to the bike master plan and talk about bike lanes. Number one, are we increasing the number of bike lanes, and how do we implement or let the public know that we do have certain bike lanes in the community?
Yes, in fact, every year, that's a great question, Councilmember Stevens. Every year, we are putting money towards expanding our bicycle system. And as the Transportation Master Plan also, as Maria talked about, we had done a bicycle master plan a couple years before. So that was implemented as part of this. And we every year are keeping up on the bike lanes that we have put in, and also look to expand more as we look to reach our goals of our American League of Bicycles and achieving our top status. So, and again, as Councilmember Heider said, it's not something we're going to go and have bike lanes immediately everywhere, but we were very systematic in the plan of how we were approaching that. And it's also laid out to work towards over many, many years as well.
So when we do the reconstruction of 20th Street, will that also include bike lanes on that process then?
Yeah, so that's one of the things. And in fact, last time I think I was here, there were some comments on the rec master plan. And I believe an individual talked about wanting a connection from 20th Street down to Park Boulevard through the cemetery, which was identified in the master plan. What's really is nice about these plans is as Chair Nadolski pointed out, having them, it gives us a chance to prioritize and implement as we do other projects. So 20th Street is technically a road project. Having that master plan, then we can implement the features within the bicycle master plan on 20th, and like 20th and Madison specifically, where that's an area we need to also look for crossing for bikes and peds, and that can be done as part of that project.
Okay. Do we give information to our hotels indicating to those visiting the city that, gosh, if you go out on such and such a road, that there will be a bike lane there that you could access there?
So one of the things I've seen in other communities, and this is a great point, is that they have kind of a little flip out map that kind of folds out really big that outlines all the bicycle facilities. And so that's one of the things that we need to work towards. We do have some maps already, but those pocket maps that fold out are a great idea. And so that's one of the things we are working towards that they can have in whether it's hotels, restaurants, anywhere, just out front here that people can grab. And so especially at the front runner as people get off.
Our partners at the Convention and Visitors Bureau are really good at that. And
Yes.
put together some really good maps with Weaver Pathways as well. And
How to get around and utilize those trails.
we've done a good job of partnering. So thanks,
Yes.
Justin. Anything else?
Just a quick comment. So I think one of the things that Maria said earlier was that this is a 2-year process. And I think people think a lot of times that we're not doing anything or not trying to fix anything, but it takes a long time, and it takes a long time to get it right. And so thanks for hanging in there with us, and both of you for doing this. I appreciate all the work that's gone into this. So a big ship doesn't turn easily, but we'll get there.
Yep. Thank you.
So
And
thanks.
and we did, as Maria said, took a long time, got a lot of public involvement, and tried to get public involvement in a lot of different areas so that we could, all that information could go into decision making.
I appreciate it.
Thank
And I'm
you.
sure the public appreciate it too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other questions for Justin or Maria before we accept public input? Okay. If you care to address the council on the transportation master plan, now is your opportunity. Okay. Seeing no motion, I will entertain a motion.
Chair, I'll make a motion that we adopt proposed resolution 2019-26.
Second. We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Councilmember Lopez to adopt proposed resolution 2019-26. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Heyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Vice Chair Chaburka?
Aye.
Chair Nadolski?
Aye, that passes. Thanks for your work, you two. You guys are both awesome. We get to enjoy the professionalism of Mr. Anderson frequently here, but we've enjoyed having you. When you have come, you've been nothing but professional and awesome. It's good. That's because you love working with Justin, and we do too. Yeah. He actually speaks really highly of you and your professionalism in your absence as well. So. Okay, next on our agenda is Central Business District Amendments. Welcome back, Greg Montgomery.
He does his magic. We'll see.
He is pretty magic.
He is. I'm amazed how he does that. So, Mr. Chair and members of the council, this is an item that is coming to you from the Planning Commission, but is a staff-generated revision to the ordinance. It is dealing with the Central Business District and some of the land uses that are presently allowed in the Central Business District, but are of concern in terms of helping us achieve our future goals in the downtown area. The reason the Planning Commission is looking at this is back in April, they had a land use decision that they considered. They look at any development that takes place in the downtown area and review it for consistency to not only the downtown ordinance, but also the way it fits in with where we want to go in the future. And we had a land use come in, which the commission as they talked about it, felt it was really not the best use, but because it was a permitted use, there's nothing they could do about it. Taking the prime corner of the downtown area and putting something in that doesn't really add to the vitality and the vigor of the community. So a pending ordinance was created in May, which placed notice that there are several land uses that would not be considered as further development until an ordinance had a chance to be adopted by the city council. So we're at a point where the Planning Commission has reviewed it, made their recommendations to you, and now it's for your consideration. This pending regulation would expire in December, the first part of December, so it's important if you feel this is appropriate to act on this request. So as you see in this map, the two blue areas, the CBDI and the CBD, are the areas we're talking about where these changes are proposed. These two areas account for 29% of all the commercial area in Ogden City. And I'm saying commercial area. This is not manufacturing. This is commercial. And the reason for this, as I mentioned, is the overall goals of the downtown are to have a 24-hour presence, create high-density housing, employment, entertainment. And there were, as I mentioned, some of the uses that are allowed in the ordinance that may not reach that potential. One of the other things, as we also talked about, is the downtown is one of those key economic drivers that help support the rest of the community. This map, as you have seen many times now since we had Urban 3 come to Ogden a few years ago, talking about economic development and land use and the values that are generated by specific ways we treat the land. That downtown area helps support much of the rest of Ogden because of that higher taxable value found in the downtown area. To understand why we're doing this is understand how we got to the CBD. We used to have the downtown considered as any other zone. It was a commercial C3, just as majority of Washington Boulevard was C3 or even Wall Avenue. As you also see in this map, we also had manufacturing downtown. You think of the old Ogden Iron Works, Richard Sheet Metal, Young Sign, Burnt Walker Lumber, Anderson Lumber. We had a lot of manufacturing areas downtown too. And as the city has grown and developed, those have changed. And so items that specifically that create concern are service stations, convenience stores, tire stores, warehousing, storage units, and not just general outdoor displays, things that, as you look at compact land uses, really don't belong in that compact land use category. They belong in other commercial areas or other manufacturing areas. But because of how the city developed in the downtown under that old zoning, we now have many remnants of that still in place, again, as non-conforming uses or as uses that are vacant and looking for some type of use. One of the things we worked with the Planning Commission as we talked about what are we trying to achieve downtown is the ideal of the property value. If you look at these land uses, convenience stores, storage units, generally the taxable value is somewhere between $10 to $17 a square foot. You look at the commercial buildings that have been developed, and you see, and even the housing that's been developed downtown, you look at those square footage valuations in the $30 to up to $300 a square foot. So you see there's a marked difference in how we use the land and how it helps the rest of the community in providing services. One of the other concerns is, as you look at this picture of the storage units, for example, on 26th and Wall, the lack of activity that it generates. It's a dead space. It doesn't, you say, you really don't want to walk by that because there's nothing going on. There's no pedestrian interest. It doesn't draw you to areas. Trying to then create that life along the street is also important. And some of these uses just don't do that. Again, looking at the changing nature of what we want to have happen downtown versus how downtown.
Yes. Sorry, just real quick. Will you go back to that slide? Is that taxable value, property taxable value,
Property
not necessarily sales tax, correct?
No sales tax. This is just taxable value of the land.
Thanks.
May I add another question? Is that okay? I just am curious, just thinking a little bit about our previous discussion. What makes the technical difference between a convenience store and a grocery?
Okay.
A small grocery.
Yes. By definition, a convenience store sells gas in addition to food. So if it has a gas pump in front and sells food, it's a convenience store. If it just is selling food, that's all it sells.
We have many little, the quick shop. It doesn't have gas.
Right. So they're just considered a
It's a
retail
grocery.
store. Yeah.
Not a convenience store.
No. Or fast food or however you want to define it. But convenience is you sell gas as part of it. And service station is you sell gas and work on vehicles.
And work on vehicles.
So.
Thank you. I needed that definition.
Yeah.
It's my little planning lesson.
Okay. The road to becoming rich.
So with the proposals that are being given you from the Planning Commission, there would be certain uses that would become non-conforming in the downtown. So storage units, they would become non-conforming. We would not permit additional storage units to be built downtown as far as a separate land use and an individual land use. Warehousing also in that same place. Convenience stores, as we mentioned. We have a couple, 3 convenience stores right now. It's interesting, as Ogden developed, under just the C3 zone and even the 50s, the amount of service stations that were in the downtown area. And we still see remnants of those in place as they have been taken over. The gas pumps aren't there, but still reusing the buildings for different things. Tire stores have been some of those things. Other things have been just outdoor displays. So drive-in restaurants is another item that would be made non-conforming. We have the one with the Burger King on Wall on 21st. Those would be areas that would become non-conforming. Now, we wouldn't allow new drive-in restaurants because, again, the idea is in the downtown compactness, walkability, not driving to things, but walking to things to have the services or having the amenities you're trying to get, and the land area they take to accomplish the automobile versus being able to walk is a consideration of this ordinance amendment.
Greg?
Yes.
Can you just quickly remind me what does non-conforming entails?
Yes.
I mean, it's
that's a good.
It sounds it sounds common sense, but just kind of what it entails.
Right. So non-conforming, the basic idea of non-conforming is it was a permitted use at one time, and through changes of zoning or changes of ordinances, no longer is it allowed. So a new one could not be built, but because it was built legally, it is allowed to continue. And that runs with the land. It doesn't run with the business. So it could change hands and still be the same use, even though it's different owners.
Okay, so it could change. Okay.
Right. So
and
non-conforming.
It would continue to be non-conforming if it changes business owners.
So non-conformity is basically saying you have a legal right to continue even though presently the ordinance doesn't allow you. Okay. So that's probably the best way to put it.
Are there any properties in this area that don't have that non-conforming rule that would be disallowed because we passed this?
No. Those items I mentioned that are showed there on the map, those all would be allowed to continue to operate and even change hands. It's just no new of those types of services will be allowed in the downtown.
Greg, there's a non-conforming certificate that the city provides for people who
Correct.
are non-conforming.
And we record that with the title of the property.
Is that required for them to go get one of those, or do we automatically give them one, or how does that all work?
Generally, when it's a small scale thing like this, it's something we could generate. So it doesn't require a burden for them because we're the ones creating that situation. When we looked at the R2 downzonings back in 2000, just because the sheer number of those, it's one of those things that we've tried to create those certificates, whether when business licenses get renewed or when someone's selling a property and the banks are asking, okay, is this still can be there? We create non-conforming certificates, but they apply for those. But once they apply for them, that runs with their title from then on.
So we will provide them the ones that
These ones we
will provide it.
because there's not that many.
Okay, great, thank you.
I have another question.
course.
Sorry, we're like back to basics here. But so what if somebody has a business there and they pass away and maybe, somebody else inherits the business?
Uh-huh.
Do they still get that non-conforming, or is it because it changes?
It runs with the land, and not
Okay.
with the owner.
Okay. Interesting.
Greg, are there any incentives or any programs to try to change the type of business or activity that is there to fit more into the new plan?
Generally, that would be part of what happens with the redevelopment district. So if you think about, and I'll just use the river project as an example, even though that's in an MU zone, that through redevelopment took out what was then even non-conforming uses, and then brought that up to meet what we want to have happen. So generally, redevelopment is probably the key to how that happens.
Okay, thanks.
I'll wait to see if there's another thought.
I know.
So, in getting to some of the specifics, one of the things we talk about are outdoor displays and reuse. So there's two types of outdoor displays that take place. One is things that are ancillary to a main function. So in other words, maybe they have a patio in the back where they're displaying products or goods, and you have your indoor business and everything's there. You walk in the business. Oh, let's come to the back and we have some additional things to show you. Or there's those where businesses that all they are is trying to reuse things, and they just function as outdoor displays. So we wanted to make clear that reusing and having outdoor displays in and of themselves is not a bad thing as long as it's put in context. So the ordinance identifies how those type of outdoor displays can work, but how that is different maybe from an outdoor display of a tire store. And saying, okay, with these general outdoor displays, if all you have is outdoor displays, maybe there's improvements that need to be made to the site in terms of landscaping, and the ordinance allows how that takes place. Again, trying to upgrade and make the improvements to again create a walkable area, make it interesting. Storage units, again, as I mentioned, in and of themselves, they really are a dead space. There's nothing taking place there. There's not pedestrian activity. There's no reason you visit the storage unit unless you have many things you've left there and you need to collect again. But in an urban area, it's not a real good land use. It really doesn't generate taxes, sales tax, property tax. It doesn't create employment, but there is a need for it. So especially as we look at, again, more density downtown in terms of dwelling, people may need places to put things. So the plan and the ordinance amendment talks about you can have storage as long as they're on the upper levels of a building, but they do not take the main pedestrian floor level. That ground floor level, as we say, needs to be activated. That means there needs to be business going on there. There needs to be activities going there that draw people in and out. And then above that, you may have those storage units to meet the needs. But it's a mixed use. It's not the only use on the property. So the commission, in their recommendation to you, voted 7-0 to approve the elimination of the convenience stores, the service stations, the outdoor tire displays. That doesn't mean you can't have an indoor display. It's just you can't have outdoor tire displays. Ground level storage units, and then modifications to the outdoor displays, as I mentioned, about being part of the main business. So that is their recommendation to you for amending kind of the first step in our downtown zoning, but to help direct us to where we want to go in terms of land uses downtown.
I have a question on the outdoor tire displays.
Uh-huh.
We have several in the city. How do you regulate that then?
Well, really, it's when again, we're thinking only downtown. Mm-hmm. So the other areas are still allowed to the outdoor displays and do that. But downtown is if you want to be a retail business, you're like any other retail business and everything's inside. Generally, and, maybe this is facetious, but generally you don't drive down the street and all of a sudden you see a tire display. Oh, I think I want one of those. You know what you want when you go there. The outdoor display is more of just a tradition of trying to sell the commodity, but it really is not something you're driven because you see it there. You know when you need to get a tire. And so if we can take and get more things indoors, concentrate the land uses better, so it's not taking all the ground for other activities that aren't generating the things we want to have happen downtown. That's the way we want to go downtown.
Greg, where do the laws surrounding or around the non-conforming status to be based on to be tied to the land and not to the business come from? Is that a state statute?
State law. Uh-huh.
State law.
How
Okay.
we treat nonconformities.
Okay. All right. Nothing we can do about that.
Well,
I was
there are some things, but sometimes it requires the government to pay for those things to happen.
Okay, I think I know what you're talking about. I was thinking more about through licensing, if we had any ability to control what happens in a location after a license expires, because there's no.
Yeah.
That route
No.
is not.
That's
available.
a different scenario of things.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Greg? Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Greg. Okay, this is your opportunity to address the council on the item of the Central Business District amendments. Anybody from the public who wishes to address the council, please limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name for the record.
Hello, Angel Castillo. I am in full support of this particular amendment to the plan. I think it's necessary. And as we are seeing, as we move through things, our plan overall is way behind where it should be. And this is a good step to move forward. I fully agree with Councilmember Lopez in starting to think through how are we going to look at these non-conforming properties. And I encourage you as council members to be a little more robust in that exploration as we are looking 10 to 15 years down the line. And as we are suggesting this change to code, it's because we're changing as a city and we want to make a walkable, enjoyable space downtown. And we're going to have these properties that are non-conforming, and I encourage you to be creative and talk to legal and talk to planning to figure out how to not let these non-conforming properties yawn on. Because as we know, once a business is entrenched in a particular place, another business comes to fill it. A good example of this is what we did as a city looking at predatory lenders. We set a cap on how many we were going to allow, and and the number has reduced. I believe it's about 15 at this particular point, which is great because you started out with 25, and I am not a fan of predatory lending. But looking at it in that aspect, you decided and made a decision of what was best for the community. And while we're really moving towards this walkable pedestrian paseo experience in the downtown, I urge you to consider what's going to happen with those non-conforming uses, because if it's tied to the land, they're going to be the same type of business in perpetuity. And I'd encourage you to be more proactive as opposed to reactive as we continue to grow as a city. So thank you.
Thank you, Angel. Anybody else care to address the council on this item? Okay, seeing no movement, I'll entertain action.
Chair, I'll make a motion then that we adopt proposed ordinance 2019-52.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Councilmember Blair to adopt proposed ordinance 2019-52. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer?
Aye.
Vice Chair Traburka?
Aye.
Chair Nadolski?
Aye, that passes. Thank you, Greg. Next item on our agenda is public comment. This is an opportunity to address the council regarding concerns or ideas on any topic. Please be sure to limit your please be sure to limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name for the record.
Hi, my name's David Timmerman. I live in District 4. Just a couple of things. First of all, congratulations to the mayor on his recent victory. Hard fought and well earned, and appreciate you. Along those same lines, the earlier discussion tonight involving House Bill 411 and the upcoming resolution. I'd like to speak on that for just a moment. First of all, months ago, I sent a question to the mayor regarding this issue, and his response was very affirmative in that if the council approved the adoption of the resolution, he would fully support that. I'm assuming that's still the case. But a couple of things. So the Rocky Mountain Power person who came and spoke to you tonight, I'd like to say that I think he's unbiased, but I believe that would be incorrect. Rocky Mountain Power, by their own statistics and information that they've provided to the public, indicates that the state of Utah and the residents that use that power, because of the existing 2 major coal-fired plants in central Utah, are actually losing money every day. The efficiency of renewable energies are so much better than they were even just 5 years ago. And that continues to be the scale that we're seeing. It's going to become cheaper and cheaper. And the state of Utah, which is part of Pacific Corp, is going to be the ones stuck with the biggest part of the burden for that, because most of the other states which are part of Pacific Corp have already or are working on doing away with coal-fired. I think Wyoming is the only holdout in that group. So I would just encourage everyone to look at this from the bigger perspective, which is that House Bill 411 does not have a downside for us. It gives the whole city and all the citizens here an opportunity to opt out if they desire. And it gives us all a chance to opt in, which we will not have if the resolution does not pass. So I would encourage that. The other thing, as you probably saw, is I was part of this group which was outside earlier tonight. I do feel strongly, as a former police officer with Salt Lake City for 24 years, that Ogden City Police does need to be reformed. We need to have an independent review process to oversee the disciplinary actions of the police department, not just the chief of police as the sole decider of the processes that we have now regarding officer-involved misconduct. And so I would inquire and ask you to consider these things. They are important, and I still feel that a lot of the community is very disenfranchised by the current situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Timmerman.
Hello, my name is Kaya Hill, and I work at Weber State University, so I'm a kind of stakeholder in that way. And I just want to share my hope that you will support the HB 411 bill that gentleman just spoke about. I definitely think that this is the right step for Ogden, and if we don't support it, we are missing out on a really big opportunity. Renewable energy is the future, and as a young person, I see that as my future. And if we don't support renewable energy, especially in Ogden, the place that I do want to settle down in and I want to live here and support and like make a business, and that if we're unable to take renewable energy on, I think we'll be left behind. And if we're not taking renewable energy on as well, it's just kind of not giving me a lot of hope for my future, with climate change and other issues that are happening with our air quality, that I think we definitely need to support that. So it's a resolution, and we need to opt into it. And so that's my support. Additionally, I also support, the idea to reform police. I think that that's been kind of a thing generally in the United States that's need to be happening, and Ogden is no different. I think we do need to reform. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stella Farrow. I'm a high schooler here in Ogden, and I also just want to implore you guys to please vote for the House Bill 411 because it's a really cool opportunity for Ogden, a place that I love and is my home, to really, I'm so short, to really like hop on this like important bandwagon of having more renewable energy sources and clean energy sources for our whole community, because if we don't, it's the beautiful place that we call home won't be as beautiful anymore. We already have problems with air quality, like because I grew up here, I have like really bad asthma, which is something that affects me personally. And if we pledge to go 100% renewable by 2030, I hope that no one will have to deal with that as much as I do anymore. And also, it's just a really cool thing because I think that Ogden is known for, we have a lot of outdoor recreation, and if we can set that example for other communities that have a lot of the stake in our environment, then maybe we can help Utah as a whole. So thank you. Also, I support police reform.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rachel Love. I am the student body president at Da Vinci Academy, and I also live in Ogden. And I just want to show my support for HB 411. It's not often that solutions for the climate crisis present themselves here on city levels. And I think by adopting 411, we have the chance to become leaders in sustainability and progress, while we also work towards the preservation of our futures and our land. As I have engaged with the youth on this issue throughout my school and different environmental clubs and organizations, they have also shown their support to it. And I would also like to say that this is the right step forwards in protecting your futures and our futures. And I hope that when you vote on this in the next coming meeting, that you will keep in mind the youth and the community support for this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, councilmen and councilwomen. My name is Trevor Jones. I just moved here to Ogden about 6 months ago, and I've been in contact with most of you. I've sent a couple emails off. I just came also as well to voice my support for the House Bill 411 bill. I know that exactly what the younger generation said. I'm 28 now. I'm a little bit younger than most of you here, but not as much as some of these guys, but I think you're kind of seeing that this is something that our generation takes very seriously. I have a daughter who, she's 18 months old, and, I think about her constantly, and I think constantly of what kind of world will I be leaving behind for her, for my children and for my grandchildren. And for our generation, it's a very serious consideration, the climate change issue, as well as the air quality issue. And as David mentioned, I don't think there's a downside to the city for anyone who, for the city or for any residents to this, to adopting and opting into this bill. It was very well written at the state legislature level, as far as I'm concerned, because it allows any individual resident, any individual ratepayer who's not interested to just opt out, and they themselves will be able to just keep on going as though we as a city hadn't opted in, if that's what they want, if they think it costs too much. Again, as David said, the cost of renewable energy is going down very quickly. Even 5 years ago, we didn't see the costs very close at all to the
cost of traditional energy sources. But there have been recent developments that it's just going down exponentially. And in the time that it takes for Rocky Mountain to build out their additional resources, we could expect to see that price drop even further. I was not able to attend the work meeting, although I would have liked to. However, I feel very confident that will be a possibility to get that pretty close or on par to our existing rates. I'm currently at my job. I'm a structural engineer by trade, but I'm also very enthusiastic about the renewables cause, and I'm in contact with a lot of renewable power developers around here. We actually, you may or may not be aware, but one of the top 5 renewable energy developers in the country is based out of Salt Lake. The other 4 are all in California, and the 5th one is in Salt Lake, but they go by the name of S Power. So I've been in contact with them, and to be brief, I think that we have a great opportunity here with HB 411, and it will additionally support the local economy. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate your hard work. Thank you.
Thanks, Trevor. Nice to put a face with the email.
All right. Hello, my name is Christian Urbina, and I support HB Bill 411. That's it.
Short and sweet.
We can get on board with that kind of comment. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Bodine. I'm an Ogden resident, and I also work in Ogden. I love this community, its people, and feel grateful every day that I get to live and work here. I approach you today asking that you support, like all of these folks, passing HB 411 resolution to bring 100% renewable energy to Ogden. I want to thank you all so much for considering this resolution, for taking the time to workshop it, to do your homework, and to ask all the smart questions. I want to thank staff for all of their hard work. I know that you are all immensely busy people. Your public service to this community is truly greatly appreciated. There are 3 main reasons why I hope you will agree to approve the resolution. First, I know that Ogden City is working so hard on making its facilities more energy efficient, and energy efficiency programs are a must. But the city needs 2 goals. They need a goal for energy efficiency and renewable energy sourcing, not just one or the other. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change recently stated that we must slash emissions by over 45% by the year 2030. Total greenhouse gas emissions must be slashed in order for us and be carbon neutral by the year 2050 if we want to stay within the 1.5 degree warming limit. The human race would be playing with fire to exceed that recommendation. To achieve that audacious goal, we must increase efficiency and rapidly transition over to renewable energy. Beyond ensuring a livable planet, the second reason why I think you should pass this resolution is because today renewable energy, as many folks have stated previously, is more cost effective than coal. And by 2035, current studies are suggesting will actually be cheaper than natural gas as well. We have a population in Ogden City that cannot afford to pay for the escalating costs of fossil fuels. Affordability is a key reason to go in this direction. Several of the states within Rocky Mountain Power and Pacific Core service areas have renewable energy portfolio standards. As these states transition over to cheaper renewable energy, I worry about our city, I worry about our state not making the same move, and that we will be left out in the cold to pay for the stranded and expensive coal assets. What I am saying is that sticking with these fossil fuels as our source of energy is incredibly risky and will likely be very expensive in the not too distant future. Rocky Mountain Power is shutting coal plants down right here, right now, because they're not economically viable. Third reason is, as many of these folks have also said, passing this resolution just allows us to stay in the game and to continue the conversation. Once the economic studies and rate schedule studies are completed, we always have the option to opt out. And many of the folk, even if the city chooses to opt in, individual citizens and businesses also get the opportunity to opt out as well. So passing this resolution just keeps choices for our citizens on the table and allows them to choose the type of energy they want to consume and the future they want to have for their children and their grandchildren. Thank you again so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
She practiced that.
That was impressive.
Hi. I'm going to speak really quickly because I have a lot of information as well. My name is Thomas Benhart. I'm a local practicing physician. I also want to speak on in support of HB 411. I have a list here of outreach tabling discussions that resulted in approximately 100 names, residents consisting of online emails sent to city council members. I have a copy of this list at your request. As you are aware, this proposal was fully vetted by the Ogden Natural Resources and Sustainability Committee that was appointed by the council and passed unanimously out of committee over a month ago. There are now 12 cities that we know that have committed to the program, equally a total of 400,000 Utah residents opting into the 100% clean energy. West Valley and Sandy are discussing this as we speak. Momentum is growing and Ogden shouldn't be left behind. Mill Creek, while preparing to vote, but concerned about the as yet known financial commitment, Mayor Silvestrini noted a discussion with Mayor Beeman of Park City that indicated they had been working on a solar farm alternative for years, and preliminary contracts show achievement of 100% clean energy for all the municipalities' power needs, a pay down of their liability in aging coal plants without any impact to current power rates. Rates will remain the same. That's powerful. Due to the fact that solar and wind are now cheaper, as mentioned before, than Rocky Mountain Power's aging coal fleet in most cases. There is a concern about increased costs to the lower socioeconomic demographic. With coal, it will only increase due to it being a limited resource. Rocky Mountain Power released its own report in 2018. 60% of the coal fleet, and this was also mentioned earlier, was uneconomic when compared to alternative sources. The reason the utility is not transitioning fast enough on its own is because the utility market incentives and customer market incentives are mismatched. Rocky Mountain Power makes money on major capital investments. Solar and wind are cheaper to build, so Rocky Mountain Power is incentivized in this regard. The utility makes money for their shareholders. Customers are looking for the most economic purchase of clean energy. Rocky Mountain Power opt-in programs, as I heard earlier today, only amount to about 3% statewide. This is not enough. It was recently said by someone that the government should not be involved in the energy market as it relates to this bill. I have news for you. The government has been involved in the form of huge subsidies to the coal and gas industry for decades. This is the first step in a burden of impact, in a multi-year process and does not commit the city to any financial burden or impact rates. Passing the resolution allows cities to participate in the process that would set note rates and keep options open for customers to choose where they would like power to come from. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks. Hey, Ralph.
How you doing?
Good.
Ralph Price, 636 6th Street. And I just want to take the time to come in, and I'd like to see you vote positive too. But I think it's just commendable that we have such great youth and such a great instructor and people that will come in and speak on an issue with such eloquence and such depth of character, such depth of thought. And that they come on. This bill will do something to be able to help us to have a target for the future. Now, you guys know my passion. My passion is for the homeless. My passion is for people that are in diverse situations. And I look at this and I am very, just my heart just swells. Been in the hospital, so you guys haven't seen me for a while, but I'm back. And I am welled up today when I just get here a chance just to see this. I missed out on what most of the agenda is, but to see the passion of what these young people have done, and which was such eloquence, they have come here to plead with you and to be able to put the case for this. I have others that are working with my program and with our outreach that we might be able to be effectively be able to be an informative thing for you as a council, that you'll make decisions that are for the future and for the present right here. I want you kids to know old guys work for it too. And it's not just you youth. And just letting you know that it is something that we've got to look for. It is their future. It is their present that we're going to be talking. I don't think in 2030 I'm going to be here. I'm trying to make tomorrow. But I'll tell you what, I'm just impressed by some of the eloquence of which have come up here and the research they've done to be able to present to you in a way that you can understand what their passion and their desire and their intent for Ogden today. Congratulations and everything too. Congratulations on the others on the board here. But just know that we're talking about Ogden in the future too. We're talking about being not just a part of, we're talking about leading the way. We're talking about being able to be the ones that's the engine, not just being the caboose. and having things come at us that have already been there. Let's lead the way in being able to promote these things that are for change. I know one thing that, boom, I'll be on the ground and gone by the time some of these kids realize some of these things here, but it's going to happen. But you guys can be the ones to take large steps towards promoting the future for these guys today. And I would like to see that. One of the things I notice that we have a hard time with is we have a hard time with understanding something that is outside the box. Outside the box is what we're trying to deal with homelessness. We're trying to deal with the different things. I just had time. I didn't get here on time because I had to sit and wait for a bus that would take a handicapped guy onto it. There was a choice by people that were coming and kept down here. I see a few faces. They were up here with John Huntsman. We just had a town hall, and we were just at it and had a good time. But they are invested not only in just speaking with you, they were there too. I want you to know these kids, these people are invested in what's best for Ogden City. Thank you very much. See you next week.
It's good to see you. Glad you're feeling better too.
All right, my name is Andrew Wicker. I'm just here to support House Bill 411, as everyone else is, for the same reasons. So,
thank you.
Hi, I'm Kelly Watanabe. I'm also here to support House Bill 411. I do not live in Ogden. I live in Huntsville, but I do go to school at Da Vinci Academy, which is located in Ogden. The science and technology is here. The youth support in our communities is here as well. It would be wonderful for us to start tackling these problems that are present around the globe. And thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Angel Castillo. In the work session today, you could hear a lot of concern about finances and what are things going to cost. And those are really great questions to ask and big things to be concerned about. And you heard it from the council side, and you heard it from Rocky Mountain Power. Rocky Mountain Power doesn't want to commit to how much that study is going to cost because they don't know. They got to figure it out. And we don't want to commit to what something is going to cost until we know. And I would like to remind everybody that there are 3 opt-out points in this entire process. So nobody has to be afraid of what it's going to cost because you have 3 distinct points where you can back out if it's too cost prohibitive. The cities that have passed HB 411 have included in their language something to the effect of if a study is cost prohibitive or if a program cost per kilowatt is prohibitive or excessive, and you get to deem what excessive or prohibitive is, then you have a way to back out. And the important thing to note that we shouldn't be making decisions based on fear. We should be leading. We should be proactive as opposed to reactive. And these concerns about what things are going to cost, there are opt-out points for you as a council so that you are not putting the city or the citizens on the hook for exorbitant fees. And there are opt-out points for the citizens. 3 months of that, 3 bill cycles. So the important thing that I think is, I was really shocked when the council asked the question in the work session, other states that are doing this. Rocky Mountain Power really didn't come across. There are 29 states out of 50 that have renewable portfolio standards. California, Colorado, Hawaii, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Nevada, New Mexico, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Vermont, Washington, and 3 territories, DC, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. All of these cities have committed by 2045 to be 100% clean energy. So why can't we at least get on the path to work towards it? As Chair had mentioned during the work session, that we need a goal. If we don't have a goal, we are lost. And I'd like to the analogy, every new year, everybody gets a gym membership, and the further away the gym is from home, the less likely they are to continue to participate. I encourage you to participate in HB 411 because you're not going to start your own power company. You're not good. Look at how long it took to get you to here where you're talking about HB 411. How are you going to stand back and then make something outside of Rocky Mountain Power. I encourage you to take the step for what's here and what's easy that has opt-out points for both the council and the citizens to at least get us on that path to that clean energy gym membership. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening. Ed Magner. I just wanted to tell you that I think HB 411 would be a good deal for us. And even if it costs more money, in the end, the future will thank us very much for our effort. The technology is here, and I don't think we're going to deny it. The solar is coming. And that's because we're going to put a coal mine on our roofs, and we're going to put a coal mine where we don't have a whole lot of people suffering to burn fossil fuel. And one other thing, too, is that carbon dioxide is a natural gas. And what it does is as the Earth turns into the dark, the carbon dioxide that is emitted keeps the Earth warmer. But we're producing too much. And one other thing is sustainability. After HB 411, we still have a lot of work to do. And I thought when I brought you the book Drawdown, that I think we can still make this a really beautiful community for ourselves and for the world and for other people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Hello, everyone. My name is David Farrow. I'm the Dean of Engineering, Applied Science, and Technology up at Weber State University and a happy resident of this fine community for about 20 years and 5/12 of a year. I'm an engineer, so we tend to be a little bit more exact. I'm here to support your looking into 411, HB 411. And I want to talk about it. First of all, I think that you can't lose with this. There's so many exit ramps to this thing, both in terms of community and personally, that we ought to be able to do something with that. But I want to talk about this briefly in terms of basically economic development and workforce development. So what you've heard today is a lot of young people who I did not plan to have here, but basically are showing you some of the things that I've seen as a dean trying to encourage people into engineering. And this is essentially what we're trying to do now, is show them that there is a path to solving a lot of the problems that they see and they're very passionate about in society. And the people that I work with in the corporate world, they're seeing that too. And they have to figure out how to encourage people, because it's very competitive, especially with the hot economy right now. They have to encourage people into their companies. So companies from Boeing to Hill Air Force Base to local companies, they're thinking about these things and talking to me about how do we get the next generation into these companies. And so I think I'm trying to say, as a community who wants to encourage economic development, wants to encourage the workforce that needs to happen in that economic development, it would be a very obvious play to show that there's a commitment to sustainability for this area and the citizens of this city. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Am I allowed to come up again?
No.
Oh, okay. I wanted to invite you to a thing, but cool. Thanks.
Catch us afterward.
Yeah. Cool.
There you go.
Send
Thanks.
another friend.
Or give the message to a friend if you would.
Send another friend.
Okay.
Or she can stay and talk to us after the meeting.
Yeah, she can. Absolutely. Okay. Anybody else?
I think she's got an. I think she's got an encouraging.
You can come up with him and whisper in his ear.
Okay.
Email us.
We won't make it hard on you. We'll be here for you. No, thanks. Okay. Thanks everybody for your comments. Appreciate all of the input you guys have given us on HB 411. It's been it's a journey. We know that, but it's complicated as well. So appreciate you guys hanging in there with us, kind of watching us struggle through the details. But any comments from the mayor tonight?
Yeah, I'll just quickly double down on something Ralph said. Seeing this young group of people get so engaged, come spend your Tuesday night here. Come to what can be, for some people, a terrifying place to come and share your thoughts and express yourself. I think is a great and commendable thing. And I know we've got a couple on the sustainability committee that are working hard on some of this stuff too. So we applaud you all for being here, for sharing your thoughts. Appreciate everybody being here and sharing your thoughts on HB 411 and on police reform. We've certainly heard and listened to all the things that have been brought up, and we appreciate everybody's involvement. It helps us make much better decisions at the end of the day, and we know that it's a sacrifice and respect that. So thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Comments from council members?
I'd like to echo what the mayor said for the youth coming and those comments that they've made. Put a lot of thought into it, and I'd like to congratulate the mayor on his election. Thank you for that. I think this evening has been a very productive session for us. We went through some items that were very important, especially with the master plan for transportation. I would encourage the mayor to work with that hotel that's being built to really suggest that we would appreciate if they would put in charging stations there and help us out a little bit. I think that's important for us. When you go out, I don't know if the lights are on, but I'd like to thank Jay and his group for the time and the effort that they've spent to develop Christmas Village. It is a cornerstone of our community for the next 2 months, and a lot of people come into Ogden to appreciate that, and so I thank that. So,
any other comments from?
I'd just like to make a quick one. It was neat tonight to be able to recognize Ernie Terraza as the honorary mayor of Christmas Village. I commend that committee and Jay and his group also for the work that they do, and the wonderful people that they continue to find to serve as honorary mayor. They have a lot of people that truly love and are passionate about Christmas Village and have put a lot of time and effort. And I thought it was great and an example to me and to everyone maybe to follow Ernie's example. I mean, when I was reading that, I kept thinking of Mr. Holland in that movie, Mr. Holland's Opus. I mean, he just kept finding new things to take on, and I respect him and his example and his involvement, not only with Christmas Village, but throughout our entire city. And it's an honor to have him serve as the honorary mayor, and I look forward to seeing him at the parade.
Thanks, Mark. Any others?
I just have a real quick comment. I want to thank the people that are here to speak out about HB 411. I think that's one thing that we can do. I think we also need to continue with the anti-idling and some of the other things that we've talked about, because it's just, there's a lot of things that go into making our climate better and our air quality better. One of the things that really stood out tonight is Ralph's comment, let's be the engine and not just the caboose. And I really appreciate that, because Ogden is a leader. We are still untamed for a reason. So let's continue to be that engine. So I appreciate that comment, Ralph.
Anyone else?
Just echo the comments. I not only want to thank the people that are here that came to speak on behalf of HB 411 and the youth. The youth been mentioned a lot. I think we all realize that one day you're going to be in charge, so we want you to be nice to us.
We need to be nice to them.
Exactly, now and then. But I like to just leave you with one thought for all the young people that are here. I would encourage you to come back and engage with us more beyond this issue of the environment now, which is great that you're here. But we just love to see you, and we need you here. We need to hear what you have to say, and we love this energy that you bring here. So I would say come back when there are some other issues. Maybe they might not be as important as the environment, but you know, there are a lot of issues we're always talking here about. So I would just really invite you to stay engaged and come and tell us what you think more. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others?
Oh, excuse me, Chair. Sorry, I had one more.
Well, we cut her off, so no. Okay. Go ahead.
Just a really quick one. I want to thank Chief Young. A couple of weeks ago, I called him because I had my daughter had an issue with someone that was sending her messages, and he referred me to some people in the police department that got in touch with my daughter and I, and they've been very, very helpful. So I wanted to thank you, Chief Young, for that. And I'm planning on emailing the person. I'm not sure if she's a sworn officer or a staff member, but I'm planning on emailing her and thanking her for really the great work they did. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah. Good. Okay. In addition to Bart's comments about the honorary mayor, I'll congratulate our actual mayor on 4 and 1/12 years left, and congratulate my colleagues and Councilmember Lopez and Councilmember Heyer. Y'all are a pleasure to serve with. Okay, if there's no other comments, we'll consider adjourning.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Councilmember Lopez to adjourn. This is a voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.